In the last few weeks, the United States has rushed a huge amount of firepower into the Middle East. Warships, fighters, surveillance aircraft and missile defences, right as talks with Iran stall and the rhetoric hardens. In this video we look at three things. First, what military assets the US has deployed. Second, why this is happening now. And third, the most likely paths this situation could take in the coming weeks and months. The most visible component of the buildup is US naval power. On January 26th, USS Abraham Lincoln entered the US Central Command's area of responsibility in the Middle East. This was followed by news on February the 13th that the carrier USS Gerald R. Ford was retasked to head towards the region in order to bolster the Navy's combat power in the Gulf. Two carrier strike groups operating in proximity significantly expand US strike capacity and air defence coverage. Destroyers provide layered missile defence and long-range strike capability using Tomahawk cruise missiles. On January 29th, Reuters reported that the guided missile destroyer USS Dilbert D. Black entered the region, bringing the number of US destroyers there to 6 at that time. The US Navy is also operating littoral combat ships in the Arabian Gulf. These include USS Santa Barbara, USS Tulsa, USS Canberra. These ships are optimised for operations in shallow coastal waters, relevant in the confined geography of the Gulf. In addition to naval forces, open source tracking and reporting indicates a substantial air power deployment. Al Jazeera reported that more than 120 aircraft may have been deployed in recent weeks. These reportedly include F-35 Lightning II, F-22 Raptors, F-15 and F-16s. These aircraft are accompanied by support and logistics aircraft such as aerial refuelling tankers, heavy-lift C-17 and C-5 transport aircraft, as well as E-3 AWACS airborne early warning aircraft. Air and Space Forces magazine also reported additional Patriot and THAAD missile defence systems being positioned in the region, along with more than 100 heavy-lift flights to support these assets. Together, these elements provide strike capability, defensive missile coverage, along with air superiority and logistics sustainment. This is not symbolic or token deployment, it's operational readiness at full capacity. The build-up comes as negotiations over Iran's nuclear program remain unresolved. The earlier framework, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, collapsed years ago, and subsequent efforts to restore or replace it have stalled. An analysis published by Reuters on February the 20th notes that regional officials increasingly view confrontation as more likely as the military build-up overshadows diplomacy. From Washington's perspective, the deployment appears to serve two functions: deterrence and leverage. In practical terms, this includes protecting US bases from missile attacks, protecting commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and ensuring rapid response capability. The presence of carriers, destroyers with missile defense systems plus Patriot THAAD batteries reinforce this posture. Large deployments can create bargaining weight, but they also increase expectations. Once forces are assembled, political pressure can make de-escalation without visible gains more difficult. This dynamic raises the stakes on diplomatic outcomes. There are four primary scenarios analysts tend to consider. Under this scenario, indirect diplomacy resumes, which would stabilise military deployments and halt any expansion of operations. This in turn should reduce any escalatory actions. This outcome is possible because full-scale war carries high economic and political costs for both governments. The key risk in this scenario is miscalculation, especially at sea. This is historically the most common pattern: a sustained period of high tension, strong military presence, and intermittent incidents, but no major escalation. Carriers remain in theatre while talks continue slowly, with both sides testing boundaries while trying to avoid crossing any red lines. A more serious escalation would involve limited strikes. The current US posture provides the infrastructure for short-duration, high-intensity operations. Such an exchange would likely involve precision strikes, missile retaliation, followed by efforts on both sides to cap escalation. This scenario depends heavily on triggering events. The least likely, but most consequential outcome would be a broader regional conflict. This would include sustained strikes on infrastructure, disruption to Gulf shipping, which would lead to an expansion of fighting beyond US-Iran exchanges. Because of its global economic implications, this outcome carries significant deterrent weight in itself. At this stage, the US military posture in the Persian Gulf appears designed for deterrence, rapid response, and negotiating leverage. It is structured, layered, and capable, but not necessarily indicative of imminent war. The direction this situation takes will likely depend on diplomatic developments, activity in the Strait of Hormuz, and whether any triggering incident occurs. For now, the most probable outcome remains a tense but controlled standoff, but the margin for error is narrow. If you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.